Google Ads in 2024 is going to look very different than past years, and that's because of things like automated campaign types such as Performance Max and Demand Gen, changes to how AI is going to be used to both create and manage ads and bidding strategies, changes to how you're able to track the success of your campaigns, and much more. So if you are a business owner, marketing manager, if your company is running ads on Google in 2024, I'm going to highlight for you in this video what I think you should be aware of and preparing for to make this your best year ever with Google Ads. Hey, this is John from StubGroup. We are a top premier Google partner digital advertising agency, and we help businesses dominate Google Ads and make money online. This is going to be a long video because there are a lot of things changing in 2024. So we're going to put lots of chapters so you can easily navigate throughout the video if you want to focus on something in particular. And many of the topics I'm going to talk about are things that we've either already made more in-depth videos about or we will be making videos about soon. So I highly encourage you to tap that subscribe button so that you'll get that new content in your feed as we create it and be as prepared as possible for success in 2024. Let's talk about Performance Max campaigns, or as I affectionately call them, PMax campaigns. Well, affectionately might not be the best word. It depends, and we'll get into more of that. But Performance Max, PMax, whatever you call it, it's going to be incredibly important in 2024. Not because it's a new campaign type, it's been around for quite a while at this point, but because the importance of this campaign type continues to increase as Google funnels more and more impression share and focus to PMax campaigns, and as they remove more and more abilities to optimize things outside of PMax campaigns. So I'm going to talk about whether you should use them, if you are using them, how to more effectively use them, and much more. So should you use Performance Max campaigns in 2024? Let's dig in. First of all, let's talk about what type of business you are. So we see a significant difference on average in performance between e-commerce businesses that use Performance Max and lead generation businesses that use Performance Max. So for e-commerce, I'm defining that as a business with a product feed. Typically, you're selling products through your website. Could be apparel, could be whatever, but you're selling products through your website. You're reporting revenue through your website, and you're feeding that data back to Google saying, hey, this order was for $100, this order was for $55.60, etc. And then Google has that revenue data to use, and you're optimizing towards return on ad spend. So e-commerce businesses on average have seen much better performance from PMax from what we've seen than lead generation businesses. The beauty is that because you're reporting data back to Google about return on ad spend, about revenue, Google's able to use that with the automated bidding that goes into Performance Max. And we've seen a lot of success with Performance Max. Now, there's also been plenty of clients where we've not been particularly pleased with PMax results and where we've actually seen better results from what they call standard shopping campaigns and from search campaigns, display campaigns, basically running the individual campaign types that Performance Max has now kind of cannibalized and taken under its wing. So if you're an e-commerce business, I would say almost any e-commerce business needs to test Performance Max. I can't guarantee it's going to work better than other campaign types, but I strongly recommend testing it if you haven't already run it, because it works well across a lot of e-commerce businesses, and this is where Google's going, especially for e-commerce. Now, there are some agencies out there, different people who will say, hey, we've stopped running PMax entirely because of concerns with performance. And again, I have some concerns about performance as well, and we have tested this with some of our clients, and we're just letting the data dictate right now kind of how that compares on average. But what I will caution you to do, or I'll caution against, is thinking that you're always going to have the ability to not use Performance Max. This is where Google's going. This is where they're pushing. And I strongly believe that advertisers who are not figuring out how to use PMax effectively now are eventually going to wake up and probably not have the options to not use PMax because of how Google's platform continues to change. So you got to figure it out now, or you're not going to be on the cutting edge. You're going to be far behind the competition when Google forces your hand. Now, again, that's a controversial subject. I'd love to hear in the comments what you think about that, but that's how we approach things. We don't see success with not keeping up with Google Trends and with kind of trying to stay in the past and not figure out how to make new things work. Now, we talked about e-commerce. Let's talk about lead generation because, like I mentioned a minute ago, we've definitely seen issues across a lot of lead generation companies using Performance Max. What we've often seen is a lot of leads that come in from PMax. So let's say form submissions, for example. For many clients, we've run PMax for lead gen. We've seen tons and tons of forms coming through, really good cost per lead. It's looking really exciting and awesome. But the forms, then we find out, are spam, like literally spam, robots. People say, I never filled out the form, no response, that kind of thing. And a lot of that, I believe, comes from the display side of things within PMax and just garbage leads. Now, that's not every single advertiser's experience. We have some advertisers that have seen good success using PMax for lead gen. That's why you should consider testing it, even if you're a lead gen business, but take that into account. And we've talked about this extensively with our teams at Google and internally about what can we do to try and solve this problem for lead gen with PMax. And one of the things that can help is to try to optimize not just towards that first lead submission, but down the road to what is actually qualified leads. So in other words, linking up with your CRM, for example, using offline conversion data imports to bring a sales qualified lead information back into Google Ads and optimizing towards that. And that can help better feed Google to understand which traffic, which conversions are actually quality for you, and then be able to drive a higher quality conversions to you and stop getting you some of that garbage. So if you are using PMax for lead gen, I highly recommend importing offline data, going as far as you can from a quality perspective to feed that data to Google so that they can get you more quality leads. And again, to answer the question, should you use PMax in 2024? You should strongly consider testing it. We've got lots of other videos you can dig into more, but don't just not do it just because some people are having bad results, and then don't go blindly into it thinking it's going to work amazing because Google tells you to. Trust but verify, validate, test the data. One thing that I think is going to actually get better about Performance Max in 2024 is that I believe Google is going to share more data with us. Now, this is usually not the approach that Google takes. Usually they go the opposite of less and less data, but there's a couple reasons why I say there's going to be more data. So first of all, in the Google Marketing Live event earlier this year, Google did announce that they're going to give more transparency into Performance Max campaigns based upon very significant feedback that they've received from advertisers, agencies like StubGroup saying, hey, we need to know more about the black box in order to effectively run campaigns. So there's already been some improvements in 2023 along these lines. There's been improvements in terms of being able to use brand exclusion lists. You're able to optimize towards new customers. You're able to have a couple of different more levers that you can pull at the campaign level than previously. You also have more insight into search terms that are triggering your campaigns on the search and shopping side of things. One thing that we still don't have within the Google Ads interface is a lot of transparency about what platforms the ads are being served on. What impression share or what percentage of impressions and clicks and conversions is coming from search versus shopping versus display, Gmail, Discover, YouTube, etc. Now, there are different approaches using data kind of within the Google Ads API that we use, that a lot of agencies use to kind of pull out and extract that information. And we leverage that when we're making decisions about how to improve PMax performance and optimize based upon kind of where the impressions are coming from, where the conversions are coming from. And I would love to see Google start being more transparent about that within the platform as well. One aspect too that I think that Google is going to start reporting on is how much of their traffic is coming from the search partners network. And I would not be surprised if they give you the ability to opt out of the search partners network in Performance Max. They give you that ability in search campaigns currently, and there was recently a very significant report that came out from the ad tech firm Analytics, raising significant concerns about some of the placements in Google's search partner network where Google is serving ads. And so there's been a lot of pressure, especially from some of the really big advertisers, Fortune 500 companies, etc., saying we're not going to run Performance Max unless we have comfort and can trust that our ads are not showing on these really problematic websites. So I think there's going to be more transparency around that in 2024. Google also recently released something called Search Themes for Performance Max, which gives you the ability to have more input into what you're telling Google is relevant to your ads. It's not per se keywords. It's not like going back to keyword targeting where you're telling Google target these exact keyword phrases, but it is the ability to have input and help train the system of what kind of traffic you want, or maybe some of the nuances of what you serve that the AI is maybe less able to determine based upon your landing pages, based upon your ad creative. So that's a positive thing. I want to see more and more of those types of things from Google. We made a separate video that digs into that you can watch for more information about how to leverage search themes in your Performance Max campaigns. There's one thing that I am very much hoping will not happen in 2024, and that is Google removing search campaigns and essentially replacing them with Performance Max campaigns. So Performance Max campaigns already compete with search campaigns. They can serve text ads on Google.com and search partners just like search campaigns do. And so they're already competing, already have the same placements essentially. But with search campaigns, obviously you have way more control over what keywords you're targeting. You can have negative keywords. You can see all the search terms. Well, not all of them, but a lot of the search terms your ads are appearing on. You can control match type. You can control ad copy, etc. So you have a lot more control with search. And I'd say, search is the most optimized, most historical, best campaign type that Google has. It's usually where a lot of advertisers start and then expand from, and it's still a very solid campaign type in many ways, and usually where I recommend most advertisers start. What I'm concerned about is that Google may remove that and replace that with Performance Max, because I know that that's something that they're strongly considering. I've been a part of conversations with Google that lead me to believe that it's very much on the table that they might replace search with PMax, just like they replaced smart shopping with PMax, and just like they're likely going to replace dynamic search ad campaigns with PMax. I very much hope that this doesn't happen, because I think it will be a net negative to our ability as advertisers to drive good results from Google. And this is, again, speculation, not something that Google has come out and said, hey, we are for sure going to do this, but definitely something I believe they're considering. So if they do that in 2024, that's going to create some interesting challenges and realities that we'll have to work with. Hopefully they will not do that, and we will continue to be able to run both regular search campaigns alongside of Performance Max campaigns for a long time to come. Demand gen campaigns are another campaign type that's going to be very important in 2024. And this is a much newer campaign type. Unlike Performance Max, it hasn't been around for that long. It was released, I believe it was early Q4 of 2023. And so 2024 will be its first calendar year that it's been available. So with demand gen campaigns, they serve ads across YouTube, Discover, and Gmail. So this is higher funnel generally, definitely higher funnel than, say, search campaigns, higher funnel in kind of Google's hierarchy of campaigns than Performance Max campaigns and shopping campaigns. And it's about demand generation, hence the name demand gen. The idea being to create demand for your service, for your product, using great assets, using video assets, using image assets across YouTube, including YouTube Shorts, and across Discover and Gmail. Google replaced Discover campaigns with demand gen, so you can no longer run Discover exclusive campaigns. Now those are a part of demand gen. And I would say the jury is still very much out in terms of effectiveness. This is something that we are using for a number of our clients, testing out, seeing what the data dictates. As with most higher funnel campaigns, you do not see the same direct attribution generally within the platform as you do from lower funnel campaigns like search and shopping. Now, there are exceptions to that. There's certainly accounts where we are seeing a lot of directly attributed conversions to demand gen, but it's important to think about it in the context of the funnel. And really the way that Google is describing it is as a parallel to some of the paid social campaigns that you might run on Facebook and Instagram and so forth. And you're not always going to see the directly attributed return on ad spend for these demand gen campaigns that you might from a search campaign, for example, because it's higher funnel. It's creating awareness that you then can often capture through some of those lower funnel campaigns. So creative is key with demand gen campaigns because it's very creative heavy. Again, video, image assets, making sure that you're showing the right assets to the right audience, testing, iterating. Also looking at your overall media efficiency ratio is important because of, again, less direct attribution. So you want to understand and test what impact does it have when you invest ad spend into higher funnel? How does that impact your overall revenue as a business? And how does that impact the efficiency of your overall ad spend relating to that revenue? We have some separate videos you could watch about MER, media efficiency ratio, return on ad spend, and what all of that means if it's not something that you're familiar with or tracking. So at the end of the day, demand gen, I think, is going to be one of the important campaigns to look at in 2024, and definitely worth testing, especially if you're at a place where you're already investing into paid social like Facebook, Instagram, etc. Demand gen can be a great place to test as well and try and look for similar parallel results in terms of how you measure success there. There is one thing that I really like about demand gen that is not an option across any other Google platform or Google campaign types at this point, and that is the ability to use lookalike audiences. So back in the good old days, you could use what they called similar audiences in Google. They call them lookalike audiences in Facebook, where you could upload your list of customers and tell Google, look at these people and then find me more people to serve my ads to that look similar to these people based upon their demographics, user behavior, psychographics, etc. Google stopped letting you use similar audiences in 2023. But with demand gen, you can use what they now call lookalike audiences. So they call it the same thing now as Meta calls it. With the lookalike audience, again, you can upload your customer data or even lead data and create a lookalike audience. There's a couple different controls you have about the lookalike audience you want to target, and then you can show your ads to them. And I really like that ability. I would love for that ability to become available for other campaign types within Google as well, other display campaign types, other YouTube campaign types, search, etc. But for now, if you want to do lookalike targeting within Google Ads, like explicit lookalike targeting, you have to use demand gen. The reason I say explicit is because, hey, with Performance Max, you can also upload customer match lists, and then in theory, Google is going to use that as a signal. And so to some extent, it kind of is a lookalike audience. You are informing them about what types of people purchase from you, but it's not as explicit, and you don't have as much control over it as you do with lookalike audiences within demand gen campaigns. YouTube as a channel, both organically and via paid ads, is already extremely important, and I believe is only going to continue to become more important in 2024. First of all, YouTube has massive reach. According to Nielsen, YouTube is the #1 streaming platform in the US, and I'm not sure globally, but definitely in the US. More than Netflix, more than Amazon Prime, more than any other streaming platform. And that should tell you a lot. That should tell you a lot about how many people are using it, and therefore how many different audiences you can reach through YouTube. YouTube is a part of demand gen campaigns. You can also run a number of direct YouTube campaigns. You can prioritize things like video views. You can prioritize reach and frequency. You can do ad sequencing. There's a lot of options, and I'd say YouTube is the kind of the hottest area right now for changes and for new campaign types rolling out. Google's constantly changing how you can advertise on YouTube. You also have YouTube Shorts, which has just ballooned or exploded in popularity. Obviously, it's competing with TikTok, with Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, etc. And it is a juggernaut in and of itself. And I'm seeing a lot of people using YouTube Shorts as a discovery engine, both for their long-form content, to get people over to watch their longer videos, to subscribe to their channels, as well as from the ad side of things, serving ads through Shorts, as well as serving ads through the more traditional in-stream. I also see a lot of great results right now from in-feed ads on Google. So a lot of people, when they think about YouTube ads, they're thinking about in-stream ads. You start watching a video and you have the 5-second skippable ad where you can skip after 5 seconds, an in-stream ad, maybe a bumper ad where you have to watch for 6 seconds or 15 seconds or whatever. And that's what most people think of when they think of YouTube ads. But there are also those in-feed ads. So when you're scrolling through your feed, looking at the thumbnails on YouTube, you can serve your video thumbnail essentially as an ad and encourage people to watch your video. And that is really cool because the people who are engaging with those generally are a little bit more engaged than people watching an in-stream ad, because with in-stream ads, you're basically forcing them to watch it. Yes, hopefully your targeting is good and you're getting in front of the right people, but you're still interrupting them while they're watching a different video, and nobody likes interruptions. Whereas with in-feed ads, they are seeing and choosing to tap or click on that thumbnail and engage with the video. And so we see a lot of good engagement numbers from that. So YouTube as a whole, I mean, we could have a whole video and have whole videos about YouTube. Much more I could say. Suffice it to say, if you are running ads in 2024, think about what you can do creatively with YouTube, both remarketing to people who've been to your website, as well as proactively identifying new audiences of people to reach with your advertising, and make 2024 the year for YouTube for your business. For the last couple of years, tracking and attribution has been foremost in the mind of many advertisers because there's been so many changes, and there are more changes rolling out in 2024, so gear up for that. One of the big changes in 2024 is with Google Chrome as a browser planning to deprecate third-party cookies. In other words, not allow third-party cookies to be used by websites when people are browsing through Google Chrome. The current roadmap for that is in Q1 of 2024 that 1% of the people globally who are using Google Chrome will have third parties deprecated on their browsing experience. And that's something Google's going to be using to testing and basically saying, okay, what impact does this change have across the board on website functionality, etc. And then currently the roadmap is that in Q3 of 2024, that's going to roll out across the board. And across all of Google Chrome, third-party cookies will be deprecated. Now, this is something that was supposed to happen a long time ago. Google has pushed this back multiple times, so you never know with Google. It's possible they could push it back. But if they stick to that roadmap, those are the deadlines. Now, what does that mean for you as an advertiser? Well, it very much depends on a couple different things. So some ad tech platforms, some analytics platforms heavily leverage third-party cookies, and the ones that do are going to have a hard time working on Google Chrome when that goes away. Walled gardens like Google Ads, like Facebook or Meta, where they have more control, more first-party data kind of layered onto things, will probably be impacted not as heavily as some of the third-party tools. But it's something that if you're using third-party tools to analyze things, if you're using call tracking software, things like that, reach out to them, ask, okay, how are you preparing for this change? How is this going to impact our service? And then it's also going to be something just from a functionality perspective that websites need to be aware of, which if you're using third-party cookies to control how your website operates, how you customize the user experience for people who are returning to your website, that's going to be impacted as well. So something that you would want to talk about with your developers and understand, hey, are we prepared for this change that's coming? Google has a number of strategies that they're leveraging to mitigate the impact of deprecating third-party cookies. And one of those is enhanced conversions. And they are massively, massively pushing advertisers and agencies to switch over to enhanced conversions. We have a video all about enhanced conversions you can watch, but I'll go ahead and highlight and briefly explain what it means here. Essentially, with enhanced conversions, you are capturing personal identifiable information about people who are filling out forms on your website or placing phone calls or placing orders through your website. So for example, capturing their email address. And then you are, through a secure fashion, sending that data back to Google, saying that, hey, somebody from test@test.com purchased a product through our website. Google looks at that information and looks to match that up with Google profile information. So for example, let's say you have an account with YouTube and your account is test@test.com. Google's able to say, well, we know that we served an ad yesterday to test@test.com. And today, that same person, that same email address, made a purchase on this business's website. So we can track that back and say that the ad that they saw yesterday impacted the purchase today. And they can do that even if there aren't third-party cookies that are allowing them to say, oh, somebody saw the ad yesterday, they went to the website today and they purchased. Even if there's an ad blocker or Safari's incognito browsing tools or anything that's preventing tracking code from firing, they're still able to match that up. And the impact of that right now, I think they're saying, is somewhere between like a 5 and 10% increase in the number of conversions you're able to track. And theoretically, that number is going to continue to increase as more and more cookies go away, because that gap with cookie tracking will increase. So enhanced conversions it's not the easiest to set up, honestly. It very much depends upon the platform you use. Some are much easier to use it, like Shopify's got some good built-in integrations. Other platforms, it can be a real fun challenge, but it's something that we help our clients with figuring out, and something that you should think through and talk with your dev team or your agency to make sure that you have enhanced conversion tracking set up. Google is also doing a better job of giving diagnostics to tell you whether or not it's working, and that's something that's been helpful, because now we can understand, have kind of error reports and be able to troubleshoot and see whether or not the data that you're capturing on the website or through Google Tag Manager is actually properly getting back to the Google Ads account. GA4, short for Google Analytics 4, is also a big change in 2024. So 2023 was the year where Google forced us to stop using Universal Analytics and start using GA4. And the deadline for that was back in July, I think it was July 1st of 2023. So everyone using Google Analytics at this point is having to use GA4. And just frankly, it has not been a good experience so far. GA4 is not very intuitive to set up. It's not very intuitive to use. It's buggy. It's got issues. It gets things wrong. I'm not a fan of GA4. That said, you have to work with what you've got. And on the Google Analytics side of things, it's what we've got. So got to make the best of what you have to work with. If you don't have GA4 set up on your website, I strongly recommend getting it set up as quickly as possible and learning how to leverage the reports in GA4, and also learning how to leverage different audience data that you can create in GA4 and then send over to your Google Ads account to leverage with your Google Ads campaigns. I hope in 2024 that GA4 is going to improve, that it will be easier to use, easier to set up, and more accurate. The jury is out on that. We will see where that goes, but that's one of my Christmas wish items for 2024. First-party data is crucial to get into Google Ads, and in 2024, it's only going to be more and more important for all the other reasons we talked about here with changes to tracking, attribution, and so forth. What is first-party data? It is the data that you have about your leads and about your customers. So email addresses, phone numbers that you can take from your CRM, from your website backend, provide over to Google to allow Google to use them in a variety of ways. You can use them in different campaign types like Performance Max as signals. You can use offline conversion tracking to tell Google, hey, this lead turned into a marketing qualified lead, or such as a sales qualified lead, or they turned into a customer, etc. So if you're using a CRM, which you need to be if you're a small business or a medium-sized business or a big business, everyone should be using a CRM to understand what's going on with the leads that they're acquiring from any advertising and marketing channels. And you should be integrating your CRM with your Google Ads account. There are some CRMs like HubSpot that have direct integrations. There are some CRMs like Pipedrive that don't, but often through Zapier, there are ways to integrate and send information from your CRM to Google Ads. Or if not, there's ways you can download information and using spreadsheets, upload that information into Google Ads. This is something that we help a lot of our clients with because it's so valuable to get that first-party data into Google Ads and understand not just leads, but also qualified leads and customers, and be able to optimize towards that with your Google Ads campaigns. I think 2024 is also going to be a big year for third-party platforms that specialize in attribution and tracking. I won't mention any by name specifically, but we have worked with a number for across different clients, and the goal of these platforms is to help fix the gaps that are in place when you're looking at GA4 or when you're looking at the conversion data from, for example, within Google Ads or within Meta Ads, etc. And so they're trying to give you a holistic understanding of how is the money you're spending on ads then translating into revenue, and across which channels, which ones are working better, which ones are not working as well. Anybody who can solve this problem is incredibly valuable because it's a very difficult problem to solve. And I'd love to hear in the comments any feedback people have about the platforms that you're using. If you're using a third-party platform to try and figure these things out, I'd love to hear what's working well for you. Because like I said, we've worked with a number here at StubGroup and haven't been thrilled so far with the ones that we've worked with. There are pros and cons to each one, but I think at the end of the day, you have to take with a big grain of salt the confidence that these platforms use in telling you, well, hey, here's exactly what your ROAS is, or your media efficiency ratio, and here's how it's coming from every particular campaign, and here's how much weight is applied to each campaign, and so forth. Just because I see a lot of issues and a lot of inconsistencies with the data, and I'm not confident that they're able to be as precise as maybe they lead you to believe in the way that they communicate data. I'm not saying anybody's being malicious or anything like that. I'm just saying really look to validate if someone is telling you that they can solve your tracking and data attribution problems. Really dig into that deeply, because it may not be as easy as they're leading you to believe. But again, at the end of the day, worth testing, worth trying, worth using different platforms to get different signals that can help in creating a big picture perspective of what's working and what isn't for your ads. And I think 2024 is going to see continued adoption of some of these third-party platforms, especially now that Google Analytics is just not as useful as a product as it used to be. Each year, Google suspends more and more Google ad accounts and disapproves more and more ads within those accounts, as well as suspending ancillary accounts like Google Merchant Center and Google Business Profiles and so forth. They do this because they're trying to keep the platform safe for users, and there are a lot of people who are malicious on the platform who are trying to scam users, install malware, things like that. And so Google is cutting down as many of those as possible, and we strongly support that. Unfortunately, a lot of legitimate advertisers also get caught up in that because maybe they accidentally violate a policy they didn't even know existed, or they were flagged for something that they didn't actually do. So a whole lot of different reasons why legit businesses can get into hot water with Google. But unfortunately, it happens, and I believe it's going to continue to happen in a great volume. Great not meaning good, but great meaning high volume in 2024. We know this because here at StubGroup, we spend a tremendous amount of time helping businesses be compliant with Google. We're the #1 resource for fixing Google suspensions and policy violations in the world. So we get to see all kinds of different situations and kind of how Google's algorithms, how Google's policies change over time, how they enforce their policies change over time. So in 2024, we're predicting that the top reasons for suspensions will continue to be things like circumventing systems, suspicious payment activities, on the Google Merchant Center side of things, misrepresentation. Those are some of the most common reasons we see for suspensions, along with many other reasons like counterfeit goods and unpaid balance and terms and conditions and so forth and so on. There's also a couple of changes to Google policies that I'll get into here in a moment that you should be aware of, especially if you're just starting out with Google advertising. Google has a new set of policies or kind of realities coming out in 2024 that they call limited ad serving. And this is particularly relevant to new businesses, or not just new businesses, but businesses that are new to Google Ads. And essentially, Google is saying that in areas where they think there might be confusion on the part of users who are using Google, this especially pertains to any search terms related to like brand names, product names, things where people might search for a brand, see an ad from somebody else, be confused about the relationship between those brands, etc. Google is going to be looking at kind of your overall business quality, for lack of a better word. So they're going to be looking at how long you've been running, looking at what you're targeting in your account, how many reviews you have online, whether you've gone through identity verification with your Google Ads account, and a number of other signals to basically say, are you trustworthy enough for Google to take the risk from their perspective of letting you run advertisements on the Google platform? And this is something that Google is saying that you can change over time. So in other words, as you build up more data, more history, more reviews as a business, it's something that they are going to look at and say, oh, you might reach a point where you are qualified to advertise when previously you weren't. Now, frankly, there's still a lot of things up in the air about this policy because while Google does say a lot of things about it, it's also still a lot of vague things. They're like, oh, we're looking at this list of things, but specifically, how many reviews do you need? Or, fill in the blank, they don't specify that. So this is something that new businesses, new advertisers in particular, are going to have to deal with. And we'll probably be looking for the assistance of agencies like StubGroup who can help understand, okay, what does Google want to see? What makes you look more trustworthy? How can we build up history and data and things like that? Google has also been pushing advertiser verification across a lot of accounts, and we're going to continue to see that be enforced on more accounts in 2024. Essentially, advertiser verification is Google requiring you to upload some documentation, either for your business or you as a person, depending upon how you've set up your payment profile with Google, to prove that you're legit and to prove that the information you're using in your account matches your actual business name or your actual name on your photo ID. And then Google is making that information, not the actual document, but the advertiser name, making that available to people who see your ads in order to increase the transparency of who's advertising what on the Google platform. If you've already gone through this, awesome, you don't need to worry about it, unless you're one of the unfortunate few where we have seen, for some reason, Google glitches and they make you go through the process again. Don't know why, but that does happen from time to time. But for most advertisers, if you've gone through it, awesome, don't have to worry about it again. If you haven't gone through it, it is something that you'll want to go through, and you can go through it proactively now from within your account, or you can wait for Google to make it a requirement for your account. Now, advertiser verification, it can be tricky to go through at times, but it's actually much easier to go through than business operations verification. And this is an additional verification that Google requires of some businesses, depending upon the vertical that they're in or some other factors that they look at. And business operations verification is a much longer, much more complicated form that you have to fill out with Google, providing them with a lot of information about how you do business, who specifically is advertising, whether or not you're fulfilling the services that you're advertising or you're contracted with other businesses or people to perform those services, etc. We have a whole video about this on our YouTube channel because the form that Google requires you to fill out is a really poorly constructed form, and it can be very difficult to actually fill it out in the way that they want you to fill it out. And we've seen plenty of situations where people fill it out again and again. It keeps getting rejected until you really work with someone who has expertise of answering every single question the way Google expects it to be answered, in a way that's accurate but also lines up with the weirdness of how Google has constructed this form. So I anticipate lots more problems with filling out business operations in 2024. Now, also Google has very recently, as of the recording of this video, said that they're going to provide some more information to kind of help guide filling out that form. So we'll see whether or not that helps or muddies the waters further, but it does indicate that they're at least aware of the problem and hopefully are looking for some ways to make a more streamlined process to fill out that form. I also think that in 2024, we're going to see an increase in the number of phone calls from support team members at Google reaching out to advertisers and saying, hey, we noticed problems in your campaigns. We want you to make these changes to improve your performance. Now, I say calls from people at Google. Actually, most of these phone calls are from people who work for third-party companies who have contracts with Google that give them permission to use google.com email addresses and say that they're from Google, but they're not necessarily actual Google employees. And Google employs this as a way to try to get people to improve performance across their campaigns. And usually these people are incentivized to get you to opt into auto-apply recommendations in your account. And they're trained on Google best practices. Now, these calls are not malicious, but you do need to, again, take their recommendations with a big grain of salt and vet those recommendations by someone who has a lot of Google Ads experience, because the auto-apply recommendations and the best practices that these team members are recommending usually don't take into account the nuances of your specific business and business model and what works well for you and your market. They're kind of general best practices across the board. For some businesses, they're fantastic. For some businesses, they're catastrophic. And so you should not just blindly take recommendations either from the automated system or from team members at Google reaching out and calling you. And to give kind of a signal of the level of support that you're receiving from these calls, Google's running a pilot program right now where you can actually pay them $50 for, I think it's an hour, it's either 30 minutes or an hour of consultation from someone at Google to look at your campaigns and give you recommendations. And they're touting as part of that the team members you'll be speaking with have, I think it's 60 hours of product training, which, I mean, that's basically last week for one of our team members. 60 hours in the grand scheme of things is not a lot. Let's just put it mildly. And so just, again, take that into account. If you're speaking with one of these team members, if they give you some great ideas, fantastic, run with it. I do recommend taking their calls and giving them the time of day, but don't blindly follow those recommendations, or you will very likely have serious performance issues with your campaigns. There are some changes coming to targeting as well in 2024. And I hesitated whether to kind of make a separate section about this, because a lot of this pertains to some of the specific things I'm talking about related to PMAX campaigns and demand gen campaigns and first party data and so on. But there's a couple of things I think it's important to highlight about how you should think about targeting in 2024. When it comes to ads, both ad copy and image ads, Google's continuing to explore how they can leverage AI for the creation and optimization of those ads. This is nothing new. Obviously, AI has been a part of things for a long time, and one of the most visible ways you can see that right now is with responsive search ads, which is where you give Google 15 headlines, I should say up to 15 headlines and up to 4 descriptions, and then Google mixes and matches to see which combinations of those headlines and descriptions work best. But as we get more into 2024, we're going to continue to see more and more, I think, of AI in the creation side of things of ads. So already, often when you go to create an ad, Google is crawling the domain of the website that you're sending the traffic to and is giving you recommended headlines and recommended descriptions that you can just click a button and use. And sometimes those are pretty good. Sometimes they're really bad. So as with most automated recommendations from Google, you got to kind of use the best and get rid of the rest. But in addition to just actually assisting you to create ads through the current interface, I also expect in 2024 to see I think what they're calling a conversational, almost chatbot experience roll out. This is something they talked about and gave examples of back during the Google Marketing Live earlier in 2023. And you can think of it similar to a ChatGPT or Bard experience, where in theory you're going to type into the chatbot, here's what I want to do, and it's going to create the ad for you. Now, obviously, you can already do that through Bard or through ChatGPT. A lot of smart advertisers are using those tools to at least get a head start on creating ad copy and then, spruce it up with a human touch as well. But that's probably going to be built directly into the interface, possibly in 2024. On top of that, you also have Google really pushing automated assets. So when I say assets, I'm talking about what used to be called extensions. Think of site links, callouts, structured snippets, and so forth. And Google has some kind of somewhat buried options within the interface that usually is turned on by default to give Google permission to automatically add these assets, these pieces of text and links to other pages on your website to your ads. Now, we have a separate video about how this works and which ones we recommend using and not using, because we've seen a lot of scenarios where Google's AI has not done a great job at choosing what text to add to your ads, and it results in ads that just don't look very good, or depending on your industry, for example, if you're in the legal space or the health space, the financial space, you may actually be saying something you're not supposed to be saying in your ads. So you got to be really careful about that. But we're going to continue to see Google pushing that and trying to leverage automation, leverage AI, and push people to use that. We're also going to see that on the image side of things, which I'm going to speak about in a moment when it relates specifically to Product Studio, which is a new tool that Google is releasing, still in beta as of the moment, not accessible to every advertiser, but should be releasing to all advertisers in 2024. Advertisers in 2024 who effectively leverage first-party data are going to have a leg up over those who don't. Again, first-party data is phone numbers, email addresses, contact information for your audience of leads, customers, etc. And you can upload this into Google and target it in a variety of ways. You can use lookalike audiences, demand gen campaigns like we talked about. You can add it as signals to Performance Max campaigns and other campaign types to help Google understand who do you want to target, or even who do you not want to target. You could say, hey, once I've sold a product to a customer, I don't have anything else to sell to them, so I don't want them to see my ad anymore. Well, you can exclude audiences so that you can save wasted ad spend from people who otherwise might re-engage with your ad, but not able to provide more value to your business. And again, when it comes to the tracking side of things as well, the more you can feed back to Google accurate data about what quality leads are coming through, what leads are turning into customers, etc., the better you're going to be able to optimize your campaigns towards those things. And like we talked about in this video related to Performance Max, we've seen situations where we can't run performance max campaigns for lead gen clients unless we have that offline conversion data to use to optimize, because when we just optimize towards initial form submissions, we get so much garbage and trash and spam that it's just a waste of money and a waste of time for the sales team. So first party data is going to be crucial in 2024. Google's keyword match types are also just not what they used to be. So we're specifically talking about search campaigns, and you've got exact match, phrase match, and broad match. And you select one of these match types for keywords to essentially indicate to Google how flexible you're willing for them to be in matching the actual search terms that people type into google.com against the keywords that you're targeting. Now, it used to be that exact meant exact. If you targeted buy umbrella as a keyword and you had it as exact match, you were only going to get traffic from people who type buy umbrella into google.com. That's no longer the case, because with close variant matching is what Google calls it, they still give themselves a lot of flexibility to say, oh, hey, we think that this search term, maybe buy rain cover, is the same thing, same intent as buy umbrella. And so we'll still serve your ad to that search term, even though that's not what your keyword is. Now, I don't want to be the person who is just saying, oh, keyword match types are dead, it's stupid, it's ridiculous. There are definitely situations where we've seen, broad match, for example, work really well, where by trusting the system a little bit, we get lots of traffic from terms we might not have thought to go after as keywords, and that does convert well, sometimes in surprising ways, and there's definitely success stories. There's also the opposite of that, where we are trying to get very specific traffic, and anything outside of that traffic is just not relevant to us, even though it looks to Google like it's very similar to what we're targeting. And so we just get a lot of wasted ad spend because Google is not honoring that exact match, that phrase match in the way that we would want them to. So what you can do as an advertiser running search campaigns is be consistently looking at your search term reports to see what actual terms Google is matching to your keywords. Be adding negative keywords to cut wasted ad spend, and you may need to consider pausing some keywords if you just see consistently that Google is giving too much irrelevant traffic to your keyword. Now, Google's counter to this is always going to be, hey, use smart bidding like target CPA bidding, target ROAS bidding, etc. And the system will learn over time and realize that this type of search term is not converting, and therefore they'll stop showing your ads to it. And sometimes that does work, but that usually works better when you have a significant volume of conversions. So if you're driving 100 conversions a day, for example, Google's able to learn and to see that this category is converting at this rate, this category is converting at that rate, etc., and make those changes. But especially, let's say you're a smaller business, maybe you're a B2B business, you're spending $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month on advertising, you're getting 5 or 6 leads even a month, but those leads could be massive deals for you, make you a lot of money. Well, there's not enough data for Google to learn from really over time to figure out with smart bidding what search terms are good and what aren't. And that's where typically those smaller B2B companies will leverage an in-house person or an agency like StubGroup to be telling the system, okay, this is what we want, and then monitoring those search terms. And I'd say those situations are where it can be particularly frustrating to deal with Google's close variant matching for keyword match types. So to prepare for it, monitor it, watch it, and make adjustments based upon those realities. When it comes to ads, both ad copy and image ads, Google's continuing to explore how they can leverage AI for the creation and optimization of those ads. This is nothing new. Obviously, AI has been a part of things for a long time, and one of the most visible ways you can see that right now is with responsive search ads, which is where you give Google 15 headlines, I should say up to 15 headlines and up to 4 descriptions, and then Google mixes and matches to see which combinations of those headlines and descriptions work best. But as we get more into 2024, we're going to continue to see more and more, I think, of AI in the creation side of things of ads. So already, often when you go to create an ad, Google is crawling the domain of the website that you're sending the traffic to and is giving you recommended headlines and recommended descriptions that you can just click a button and use. And sometimes those are pretty good, sometimes they're really bad. So as with most automated recommendations from Google, you got to kind of use the best and get rid of the rest. But in addition to just actually assisting you to create ads through the current interface, I also expect in 2024 to see I think what they're calling a conversational almost chatbot experience roll out. This is something they talked about and gave examples of back during the Google Marketing Live earlier in 2023. And you can think of it similar to a ChatGPT or Bard experience, where in theory you're going to type into the chatbot, here's what I want to do, and it's going to create the ad for you. Now, obviously, you can already do that through Bard or through ChatGPT, and a lot of smart advertisers are using those tools to at least get a head start on creating ad copy, and then spruce it up with a human touch as well. But that's probably going to be built directly into the interface, possibly in 2024. On top of that, you also have Google really pushing automated assets. So when I say assets, I'm talking about what used to be called extensions. Think of site links, callouts, structured snippets, and so forth. And Google has some kind of somewhat buried options within the interface that usually is turned on by default to give Google permission to automatically add these assets, these pieces of text and links to other pages on your website to your ads. Now, we have a separate video about how this works and which ones we recommend using and not using, because we've seen a lot of scenarios where Google's AI has not done a great job at choosing what text to add to your ads, and it results in ads that just don't look very good, or depending on your industry, for example, if you're in the legal space or the health space, the financial space, you may actually be saying something you're not supposed to be saying in your ads. So you got to be really careful about that. But we're going to continue to see Google pushing that and trying to leverage automation, leverage AI, and push people to use that. We're also going to see that on the image side of things, which I'm going to speak about in a moment when it relates specifically to Product Studio, which is a new tool that Google is releasing, still in beta as of the moment, not accessible to every advertiser, but should be releasing to all advertisers in 2024. There are some really big changes coming to Google Shopping and to Google Merchant Center in 2024. Now, if you are not running an e-commerce business and you're not running Google Shopping campaigns, you can skip this. This isn't particularly relevant to you. But if you are e-commerce, are doing Google Shopping, watch these next couple of sections. One of the biggest changes to Google Shopping in 2024 is Google Merchant Center Next. And this is yet another iteration of how to view and navigate a Google account. Google loves to change things on you. Some might argue as soon as you get used to something, they'll switch it up. But in theory, the purpose behind this change to the UI is to make it easier and simpler for people to navigate Google Merchant Center, to set things up correctly, to see what they need to see, and so forth. And from my perspective, personally using Google Merchant Center Next, jury's still out. There's still, there's some things I like about it. I think one thing it's doing a better job of probably is emphasizing or featuring some of the tools like market comparisons, pricing comparison, demand information, things that a lot of people didn't even know existed in the previous version of Google Merchant Center, unless they were more on the advanced side and kind of digging around through the various options in Merchant Center. As always, whenever there's a new platform, you miss, I know exactly where to go, and now I've got to relearn it and all that good stuff. So I'm sure everyone who's used to Google Merchant Center is going to go through that learning curve, and a year from now we'll be used to it, and it is what it is. But that's a big difference, and so it's something you're going to want to familiarize yourself with. Go through all the options, go through all the tabs, make sure you've got everything selected the way it should be, the way you want it to be. Make sure, as always, that your feed is in order. And there's also some cool new things like Google Product Studio. What is Google Product Studio? Well, it's a pretty cool tool that we're having a lot of fun playing with here at StubGroup for the Google Merchant Center Next accounts that have it as a beta. So as of recording this video, it's still a beta. It's in Google Merchant Center Next, which is the new version of Google Merchant Center. It's not available yet that I've seen in the existing version of Merchant Center. But here's what it is. It is leveraging AI to make better product images. So there's a couple of different things it can do. It can edit existing images. So if you need to, for example, remove backgrounds from your images, your product images, to make them look better or to comply with Google's policies, it can help with that. If you have a low resolution image, it can potentially help with increasing the resolution through AI to actually make that, make a poor source image better and more attractive for people to click on. So that's pretty cool. And then you can also actually create like a custom background or scene for your products, either by describing a scene, just typing it in, or by using some of the pre-selected options they have. So you can take, a boring photo of your product on a white background and suddenly your sunscreen can be on a beach or next to a hammock, or the whatever you can imagine, essentially. Now, as of the recording of this video, there are definitely some limitations. Google does not recommend trying to put people into the images. It doesn't do a good job of adding people, and it also won't let you upload images with people. I believe currently is the standard. That may change or may not over time. I don't know, but it's a really cool tool to play around with and see if you can make your images look better, more compelling, to increase your click-through rate, maybe even your conversion rate when people are clicking through your ads to your website, and stand out from your competition. When it comes to bidding strategies within Google Ads, as far as we know, there are no particularly new bidding strategies that are coming out in 2024, but Google is going to continue pushing and emphasizing what they call smart bidding. So smart bidding is any bidding strategy that leverages conversions in the bidding. So primarily we're talking about maximize conversions, or the subset of that, target CPA bidding, as well as maximize return on ad spend or target return on ad spend bidding. Those are the primary ones that most people are using when it comes to smart bidding. You also have enhanced CPC bidding, which is kind of smart bidding. It leverages conversions, but those are kind of the main bidding strategies. And if you want a deep dive into bidding strategies, go watch our video all about bidding strategies and the different scenarios in which you should use different ones. But for the purpose of this video, just be aware that Google really wants you to use a bidding strategy that leverages conversion data. And generally, in most cases, when you are able to do that, you're going to see better performance. There's always the outliers, there's always a caveat, but the only times these days that I see smart bidding work less well than manual bidding is if you just have such a low volume of conversions that there's not enough data for Google to work with to do a good job. Now, there's also times where you want to have some control over smart bidding. So I've definitely seen instances where even if you have a target CPA, you also want to set a max cost per click so that Google doesn't have permission to go and spend $50 on a click when your target cost per conversion is $40, for example. Not that they would ever do that. Kidding. I've seen all kinds of things. So sometimes you want to set a cap, but test it, because I have seen times where performance got better after removing a cap. And I've also seen times where Google would consistently not hit the target CPA you set until you set a cap. And if you're like, hey, how do I set a cap, a max CPC cap for bidding? I don't see that option. There's a sneaky, I'm not going to say sneaky, but there's a little way that you can do it. So you can use a portfolio bidding strategy. When you use a portfolio bidding strategy, you have the option to add a max cost per click. And you can use a portfolio strategy on only a single campaign. So if you want to set a max CPC and you don't see the option at the settings level in a campaign, go create a portfolio bidding strategy, apply it just to the campaign you're running, set a max CPC at the portfolio strategy, and you're good to go. Just in case you felt a little too comfortable using the current user interface of Google Ads, Google decided to go ahead and create a whole new interface. They've redesigned it, and we're in the rollout process as of the recording of this video towards the end of 2023. So some accounts have the new interface, some have the old interface, some still have the option to switch back and forth between the modes. In theory, this has no impact on performance. Nothing is changing from this update that relates to actually how campaigns are going to serve, how you're going to get impressions and clicks and so forth. But it has a very big impact on how you actually look at the data, look at your campaigns, navigate them, make changes, etc. And as with all changes that Google does along these lines, there's a learning curve. They're recategorizing things, putting things in different places, so it takes a while to hunt around and figure out where the report from the old interface is and the new interface, or they're putting search terms over here, not over here. Auction insights is here, not here, that kind of thing. So it's a learning curve. You figure it out. If you're just getting started right now with Google Ads and you've already got the new interface, then you don't have to worry about it because you're learning from step one. But if it's not your first rodeo, you're going to have to get used to it. And here's what this does mean. If you're watching other YouTube videos with tutorials that were made with the old interface, you're going to start getting confused because it's going to look very different, and the steps and specific action steps that that whoever made the video is telling you to take aren't going to look quite the same. So bear that in mind as well. If you're frustrated and you're like, hey, this makes no sense, my view doesn't look like what's on the video here, it's because it was recorded in the previous interface. If you made it all the way in the video to now, Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for investing the time, and I hope that you found some things to be helpful. I hope that you were prompted to think about 2024 maybe in a slightly different way, or prepare for some things that maybe weren't on your radar previously. And I also know that there's all kinds of things that I didn't put in this video. This video could be 10 hours long. We could go in depth into so many things. And that's not the purpose of this video. It's just to give you some things, put it on your radar, and help guide you as you prepare for 2024. We are putting out all kinds of other content on our YouTube channel here, with more deep dives into many of the things that we talked about in this video, as well as many other things and the new updates that I am not aware of to even tell you about right now. So please do tap that subscribe button so that you're aware of that new content as we put out, if you find it helpful. And thank you again for watching. This means a lot to me because Google Ads, I believe, is still an incredible platform for driving success for so many businesses online. And while it's not without its challenges, not without its hard days and the days where you think, why, Google, are you doing this to me? It is still an incredible platform to be able to leverage to make so many businesses successful. And I'm grateful that so many clients trust StubGroup and our team here to make them successful through Google Ads. So if you want to work with a top premier Google partner advertising agency to dominate your Google Ads and grow money online, as we always say, we'd love to help. Reach out through our website, stubgroup.com. Leave a comment on this video, however you want. Just reach out. We'd love to help you. And if you disagree with something I said today, if you think that I completely dropped the ball and missed saying the most important change in 2024, or if you have a question about anything we talked about or anything Google Ads, just drop a comment on the video. We're watching, we'll reply, and we'd love to have a conversation. So until next time, thanks for watching.